As Moscow retreats into bunker mode and shrugs off summit talks as just rumors, a deeper truth is setting in. Russia's much-hyped summer offensive has stalled. Despite throwing over 100,000 troops at Ukrainian lines, gains are minimal, losses are mounting and frustration is boiling over. And while the offensive falters, the brutality over civilians intensifies. That's in our episode, so you'll be in focus. Stay with us for the latest updates and exclusive reports. The Kremlin's in panic mode, doing everything to make sure Putin doesn't get sunburned next time he crawls out of the bunker, since the Alaska meeting was apparently enough fresh air for him. Lavrov calls talk of a Zelenskyy-Putin summit just rumors, while Washington's already prepping the guest list. Moscow's back to demanding vetoes, rejecting NATO and questioning Zelensky's legitimacy. Same old playbook. Full story coming up.
Following high-level meetings in Anchorage and Washington, the Kremlin has set a new objective to prevent any meeting between the Russian dictator and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. In an interview with NBC News, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov claimed that Putin never made any such promises to President Trump. According to Lavrov, the idea of a potential summit is merely a rumor being spread by officials in Kyiv and Brussels. However, shortly after the Alaska meeting, the U.S. president posted on social media that all sides had reached a fundamental agreement and that preparations for a summit were underway. This was later confirmed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance.
There
were discussions about holding the meeting in both trilateral and bilateral formats. Now, everything has changed. This shows that Russia was clearly trying to stall for time, but after the White House meeting, that strategy collapsed. Concrete details of a peace agreement began to be discussed. First and foremost, security guarantees for Ukraine. And that is precisely what the Kremlin does not want. Ukraine receiving real security guarantees. So they began, let's say, backing away from their earlier commitments.
Publicly expressing a willingness to negotiate while making deliberately impossible demands has long been a staple of Russia's negotiation tactics throughout 3.5 years of full-scale war. This was evident during the talks in Istanbul, and it's the same approach Lavrov uses now. Just last week, Lavrov demanded that Russia be granted veto power over any Western security guarantees for Ukraine. He also declared that the Kremlin categorically opposes the presence of European troops on Ukrainian soil. In his Sunday interview with NBC News, Lavrov again insisted that Ukraine must abandon its pursuit of Euro-Atlantic integration and reiterated Russia's long-standing claims to Ukrainian territory.
Lavrov's statements in the NBC interview reiterate consistent Kremlin claims that the alleged root causes of the war are NATO's eastward expansion and Ukraine's discrimination against Russian speakers. Lavrov's continued insistence that any end to the war must address Russia's root causes, including multiple times following the August 15th Alaska summit, continues to indicate that Russia's war aims have not changed. Putin is unwilling to meet with Zelenskyy unless Ukraine concedes to Russia's original war demands, which amount to Ukraine's military, political, and cultural capitulation. From a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
Lavrov also tried to shift blame for delays in the peace process onto European countries, while portraying Trump as someone doing everything possible and impossible to end the war. The Kremlin's strategy is clear: divide the Western alliance supporting Kyiv and destabilize the political situation inside the United States. Additionally, Lavrov revived claims questioning the legitimacy of Ukraine's president, clearly aiming to undermine any future peace agreements. Here's how Ukraine's foreign ministry responded to Lavrov's remarks.
Nothing is more absurd than a lecture on legitimacy from someone who has sat in his chair for 21 years, serving someone who has been ruling for more than 25 years. He has no legitimacy to talk about legitimacy. Such delusional statements show that Russia rejects peace efforts. Andriy Sybiga, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on X social network.
Western governments have interpreted the Kremlin's statements and actions as sabotage of diplomacy. No one intends to concede on fundamental issues. Doing so would render any future agreements meaningless, reported by Irina Yusupova, UATV News.
The Russian army's summer campaign in Ukraine, during which generals tried to break through defenses in Donbass and open a new front in Kharkiv and Sumy regions, has failed to deliver results. And this was reported by Bild military analyst Julian Ryobke. By the way, Ukrainians still hold the line, so for more footage, you better watch our recent news pulse digest. According to Deep State, while the pace of the Russian offensive reached its highest level since last November, the total gains over 3 summer months amount to just 0.3% of Ukrainian territory, roughly 1,800 square kilometers. Despite deploying a force of over 100,000 troops, a number which Viktor Trehubov, spokesperson for the Dnipro Operational Strategic Group, compared to, quote, a horde being enough to conquer an average European country, they still haven't been able to advance along even a single narrow axis. Meanwhile, Russians are hunting civilian vehicles by deliberately targeting the Mykolaiv-Kherson highway. More details on the situation in Kherson in the report.
This is what the Mykolaiv-Kherson highway looks like right now. The road is under Russian fire control. The occupiers are trying to disrupt logistics in the frontline regional center. On the morning of August 26th, Russian troops attacked a car on the highway between the villages of Klapaya and Chornobaivka. Medical workers were injured in the shelling.
There was a car standing on the road. 3 guys ran out, waving their hands, not letting cars pass further. I parked next to them. They told me that about 600 to 700 meters ahead, an enemy drone was hovering. For 10 to 15 seconds, it circled above our cars, then flew about 500 to 600 meters back towards Kherson and hovered there for a while. A minute and a half later, it returned, dived at us, and struck the car.
Only 2 weeks ago, Yevhen had returned to work after recovering from a previous injury, when doctors had to reconstruct his leg. Now, after the drone strike, he has been diagnosed with a concussion.
My condition is unusual. A bit slowed down, I lose words while speaking, and I'm unsteady with poor coordination. I don't feel very well.
Regional authorities warn traffic restrictions on the highway are possible. Drivers must be extremely cautious and follow law enforcers' instructions.
We had already introduced such restrictions before. Police officers stopped traffic whenever the military reported possible drone attacks in this area. Now, we will be enforcing this more actively as drone strikes have intensified.
At the same time, Russian occupation channels openly declare anyone on this highway can become a target. Any vehicle is considered fair game.
The enemy deliberately targets civilian vehicles traveling this road. By doing so, they ignore all norms of international humanitarian law. Such actions are direct war crimes, aimed at intimidating civilians and destabilizing movement in our rear areas. Ukraine's defense forces are already taking measures to counter these attacks, and work is ongoing to identify and eliminate enemy drone operators in the region.
Since the beginning of August alone, 84 civilians in Kherson region have been injured in Russian drone attacks. 9 were killed. Among the wounded are 3 children. Since the start of 2025, Russian drone strikes have killed 99 people in the region, including 1 child, and injured nearly 1,000 civilians. Reported by Daria Litovchenko from Kherson region, UATV News.
What's your take on all of this? Share your thoughts below. This is UATV. Stay sharp, in focus, and stay safe.